If I ask you what the biggest contributor to crime in the United States is, what would your answer be? Some people will say guns, we have way too many of them. Some people may say movies and music, but very rarely will you hear anybody in the media talk about the real issue that's going on right here in the United States. And a fixable issue too. And I'm actually going to give you what I think is a very reasonable solution to dramatically drop crime in the United States. And surprise, surprise to anybody in the media, it has nothing to do with gun control. Now, I'm going to use two cases, one that is pretty high profile right now and one that happened some time ago, but it didn't receive as much attention, and that is part of the problem too. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion, and of course, I'm going to lace in facts with this as well. You can look all this stuff up, but whether you agree or disagree, let me know what you think down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. First one I want to talk about is Christina Spicuzza. Now, she's a mother of four, and she's driving Uber in order to take care of her kids. Well, she ends up picking up a guy named Calvin Crew. Unfortunately for her, this is going to be the last Uber ride that she's ever going to be able to do. He ends up pointing a pistol at her. He tells her to drive. And you can see in the dash cam footage that she's like, at first, in shock.
No, it's not. Stop. Come on, man. I got a family. What are you doing?
I got a family too. Now drive.
What are you doing?
Drive.
Please stop.
Drive the car, miss.
Why
Just
are you
drive.
doing
Don't
this?
Don't make this so noticeable. Just drive.
Why are you doing this?
Drive the car.
Shortly after this, he has her in the ride and unfortunately ends up taking her life. Now, this did get some media attention, but it didn't get a lot. And that's kind of part of the problem. One that has got a lot, though, is Rodney Hinton Jr. There's kind of an infamous clip of him mean mugging some cops as he's walking out of court. Now, he actually ended up striking and taking the life of Larry Henderson, who was a retired cop. I think he did like 33 or 35 years, and he was doing traffic control for some kind of event. Maybe it was a game that they had going on, but he was just trying to help out. Now, Rodney just saw the body cam footage of his son losing his life to police officers, but Larry Henderson had nothing to do with it. Now, that case is still ongoing, and we're trying to, get all the facts, but here's what the cop was faced with whenever he actually got out of his car. Stolen vehicle, 4 suspects, and they're armed. When the cop sees Ryan, who is Rodney Hinton's son, come out between the dumpsters, he sees a gun, he makes a split-second decision, and unfortunately, it's a tragic event all the way around. But there's something different here between these two cases. One received some media coverage, not a ton, but the one with Rodney Hinton has received a lot of coverage, and as a matter of fact, people are calling this guy an absolute hero. Now, I have no clue how taking the life of an officer that had nothing to do with your son's passing, how that considers you a hero, I have no clue. But this is a growing trend. Another case, high profile. We don't have all the information just yet, but the kid at the track meet, right? Stabbed by Carmelo Anthony. They raised bail for Carmelo Anthony, like $500,000, $1 million, a ton of money, and called him a hero. But I'm confused. When did we get to the point where, first of all, you don't have all the facts? And this has been going for some time. And one of the biggest contributors to crime in the United States is the media and the way they portray the coverage. I think they should be liable for a lot of the things that they've done in the past, from George Floyd to now to ongoing situations. They will cover specific crimes more than others. Now, they refuse to cover if a concealed carrier saves their life. If Christina Spicuzza had a firearm, she would have had somewhat of a chance, and let's say she ended up saving herself. You know how much media coverage that would have gotten? Probably none. It's hard to say, but let's just be honest. When's the last time you saw media coverage, honest coverage, that said, oh, a concealed carrier saved their life or the life of other people around them today? It doesn't happen. But cases like Rodney Hinton, Carmelo Anthony, George Floyd, and others get way more media coverage. And the problem is you don't have all the facts in a lot of these situations. So while cities get burnt down and statues get built, some time passes and we find out, oh, well, this guy actually had a drug issue. This guy had a rap sheet. The officer isn't the problem here. And yet you will hear politicians and the media immediately, the first thing they go to is the race car. And unfortunately, the victim mentality has spread throughout certain communities like wildfire. So as soon as something like this happens, it's instant outrage, and then it's like, hey, we're going to burn this place to the ground. The media and their coverage, the way they cover, the angles in which they cover, absolutely has a lot to do with the crimes that you see committed, like in some of these situations here. Another part of the problem is when I say we, some people will actually prop up bad behavior, right? You hear it in music. Now, there's some certain rap out there that's like storytelling rap that talks about the struggle and coming up, getting out of the struggle, and the opportunities they made for themselves. I love storytelling rap like that. But the vast majority of it that I've heard is like, oh, get your bag, money, cars, clothes, hoes. That's basically what it's all about. It's not propping up the community. Now look, this comes down to more than just music, but I'm using this as an example. Bad behavior is somehow put on a pedestal to say, this is the way you should act, not raising a family, getting a job, starting your own business, having kids, getting married, faith. It says the complete opposite, and somehow this is all propped up. You can hear it in any kind of rap and music and culture, right? That, yeah, bad behavior is actually good behavior, and where that starts is inside of the home. Now, statistically, the black community has been affected by this the most. Starting back with the Civil Rights Act, had great intentions when it started, but there's also been social programs that have said, hey, if you don't have a father in the home, the government will take care of you. The problem is the government sucks at everything. And having talked to some of my black friends about this exact subject, they say the same thing. Not having a father in the household is not really seen as a big deal. And we see that in the statistics. 72% of kids are growing up without fathers. Now look, this doesn't mean that it's just black people that are committing crimes. Latinos, whites, blacks, there's people that commit crimes all across it, but it is proportionally higher inside of the black community. And this is a great disservice to them. You're starting them, if you don't have a father in the household, you're already starting behind the 8 ball. 85 to 90% of the people in prison grew up in a father's home. The chances of growing up and being and staying in poverty and getting involved in crime go way up. If you don't have a disciplinarian inside of your home, along with the nurture side from a mother who's super important as well, then you don't understand that there are consequences for your actions. But make no mistake about it, these kids will look to somebody to fill that role, and unfortunately a lot of them, that's how they fall into gangs. Guess where most of the crime happens? Gangs. Guess who commits most of the crime? These are repeat offenders. We're not talking about law-abiding gun owners here. So here's what I say. Instead of propping up voices inside of that community that are talking about hate, division, blaming people, becoming a victim, blaming the past, prop up good voices. Your Thomas Sowells, your Deion Sanders, Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, Kalion Noir. You guys all know who he is. The Black Guns Matter founder, Maj Toure, Jason Whitlock, Brandon Tatum, like these are all voices that I know some of them definitely are doing their part. Now, it can't be all put on them, right? But somehow we've gotten to the point where we praise voices that perpetuate hate, division, blaming people, blaming the past. You're a victim from the very beginning, while at the same time suppressing those voices that can do a lot more good inside of that community than others. And if these prominent black voices start talking about how good it is to hold on to your faith, how good it is to have a family, to hold on to your family, to get married, to have kids, to raise them right. Going to college is part of it, right? But you don't have to go to college, right, to have a really good career. But working hard and it's just all of those values, dude, you will see such a crazy, amazing revival in this country in the next 10 years. You wouldn't even recognize it. And I can almost guarantee you that the crime rate across all communities would go down from there. It's not a gun problem that we have, but situations like this will absolutely be used to push for more gun control. And that is a major disservice to the real issue here in the United States when it comes to crime. There you go. Here's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.